Let's all go to the
video,
lobby. Let's all go to the
video,
lobby. Let's all go to the
video,
lobby to get ourselves a treat.
interview.
I think one of the things I heard you mention in a previous interview was that one of the things that made you want to go into makeup was watching Face Off and then thinking, well, hey, I would have done this differently or that differently, that kind
Yeah,
of thing. And I guess it's kind of a follow-up to that. Are you able to like turn off that part of your brain? Like, are you walking around thinking like, I wonder if this person had like that kind of chin or these cheekbones, or are you able to separate it?
absolutely. I think because a lot of people in this industry grew up with makeup or grew up sculpting or doing this or that, and I did not. It wasn't even on my radar until like pretty much until I started doing it. Like I wasn't tinkering with it or anything pretty much until like a year or two before I started working with Mike. Um, and I'm very fortunate for that because that's usually not the way things work. So I think because I didn't grow up looking at those movies that like everybody who's big on makeup really grew up with. Um, I think that it's still easy for me to just watch a movie and watch a movie. It's like, yeah, sometimes I go, oh, that's funky, or like there's a bad makeup. But I'm still able to enjoy a movie without picking that apart. Like I can notice something and just cast it aside and just keep watching. Whereas a lot of people who do this, it's like it ruins the movie. That like I almost feel bad for them because I just like feel like you can't just watch a movie and unless it's like a piece of art, like you're so distracted. But I think again, bad student, like I am not a student of any of it and the history and all that stuff. So like I can just watch a movie.
And
And
go ahead.
because I'm not really like a makeup designer, I'm not really thinking in that regard. Like if you tasked me with it, then I'd probably have a lot of opinions. That's kind of like I'm just like a robot. And once you like turn it on and then like put me in a direction, then I'm like I'm just like chop through. But if you haven't wound me up and put me in that direction, I'm probably not thinking about it.
Um, well, we what's the phrasing I'm looking for? You've mentioned, Mike Marino a couple different times, and I know you have a great working relationship with him. I'm curious, and I don't necessarily want to make you dive into the whole history of it, 'cause I'm sure you've heard that 1,000 times. But one of the things I've noticed about Mike, just watching some of his interviews and prep for this, is that he's a huge music fan. I know he grew up in like the Ramones punk scene and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I know as a songwriter yourself and a singer, was that like a bonding point for the two of you? Was that at all part of why you two could get along so well?
No. Me and him are an odd mix because we are so completely different in a lot of ways. He is Ugh. Like he is so well versed in history of art, in music. It's like he's got volumes of all this like knowledge and history and I have none of that. Like zero of that. So it's I think it's an interesting mix though, but the one thing that I am good at is being where somebody needs, paying attention, being flexible, durable, hardworking. I have many speeds I can work at. A lot of people don't. A lot of people, it's like deadline or not, they only have the one speed they can go at. And I'm just like very good with time management and I can work at whatever speed is necessary to kind of get done what needs to get done. And I'm always looking for ways to do it faster and better. And I think that also a lot of the things I learned managing people really carried over to the makeup world because a lot of times artists are not very good at those types of things and the organization and the preparation and efficiency and working with people. And also I still was comfortable working with famous people. So it's like I'm not all like, I think a lot of those things really helped me be an asset coming into makeup because it it easy for me to do some of the shop side of stuff as well, like scheduling and making sure that we know a timeline for when each piece has to be made so that we can hit the deadline, packing, being aware of like what we need for the trailer and all those things are also things that I do. So I'm kind of like on both sides of the process. So I do all that stuff with the build and all that stuff. And then when we go to set, I switch gears and now I'm a makeup artist. It's kind of wild.
Come on, man. Just subscribe.
You've mentioned the idea of, being a bad student and all these things. It sounds like, kind of your blue collar background coming, again, from working from, Guitar Center 14 years and then coming into the special effects world with a totally different way of looking at it than most people. It sounds like that's really been an asset for you rather than a hindrance. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, it definitely does not help with like some imposter syndrome things. When you come at it, it's such a different trajectory too. Like, most people, it's like indie films and like freelancing, and then you like hope that you could get
Yeah.
on a show like some of these shows. And I kind of just did the exact opposite. I just like crash landed. And I'm like, I'm here, I'm doing it. Oh wait, don't ask me how long I've been doing this because that's gonna freak you out. But but I tried to just kind of fit in and behave like I belong there until I've done enough to where I actually belong there. And I just always try to work at a level where nobody would notice. And luckily I'm capable enough of doing that. Just
When you mentioned the idea of imposter syndrome, and it's such a, eternally fascinating subject for me because like I'll tell you, I get that like this whole week I was like, why how did I get Crystal to agree to this fucking interview? Like how does this happen? I have that with like every single interview I do. I'm like, how the fuck am I doing this? But it sounds like to me a lot of people have that sort of oh gosh, I can't remember the wonderful actress who plays Sophia Falcone, Christina
Kristen
Meloni?
Milioti. Yeah.
Milioti, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, a wonderful, wonderful actor, and I've heard her, talk about that. Like when she gets on set, it's just like, oh God, they should have cast this person or that person, that person.
Yeah.
In your experience working with these people, it sounds like, and I guess what's the phrasing I'm looking for? Uh, it sounds like a lot of people, no matter what level of success they get to, they're still kind of have that thing of like, oh gosh, why am I here? I don't deserve,
Yeah.
does that strike true to you?
I think I find that the people who tend to behave that way, I don't know that it's that they don't feel that their skill level is good enough. I think it's usually comes from a place of not being self-deprecating. Like I often don't want to call myself like a musician or an artist because I'm technically not at that level. And it's more out of respect for people who have done all that stuff. And I think it's it happens a lot of times when people don't feel like they've done all those things, and it's a little, like, I feel a little embarrassed to call myself a thing because I have a lot of respect for people who have done the time and have done those things. Now, I do also feel like I am where I am because of the work, and I feel capable of and competent enough to do that. It always feels weird when your path has been so different to the people around you, like you don't want them to be on the sidelines being like, hell, bitch isn't even on the union or like, or they didn't even do this or that. And because you never really get the truth of what people are saying around you. You just get what they give you to your face. So I think it's always over here, just like, what are they thinking? Do they see? Like, do they know? Like, um, yeah, I mean, I don't think that it's really that if people are just walking around being like, I'm not good enough. I think it's more just them being afraid that people can see like what they haven't done that's the normal and like judging that, having their own feelings about it. Like that we're not deserving because we didn't do XYZ. When really we're doing because we have a different XYZ. So
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things, right? You talked about the difference between you and like Mike and how you approach it. And I'm sure, what's the phrasing I'm looking for? I'm sure that's a huge asset to Mike, right? Like if he already has that whole thing locked in of like, all right, David Lynch did this and the Elephant Man and this and Eraserhead. So, for a collaborator, I think it's probably a tremendous asset for him to be able to have you come at it from a totally different angle, Like, yeah, well, you hit the nail on the head there. Um, I guess on a similar sort of idea there, you talked about, and I was just mentioning it, the difference in how you and Mike approach this, and how you think about these things. Is that something? Would you like to go back and try and dive into the history of prosthetics and all this kind of thing, or do you like just coming at it from your own angle?
You know, I think I'm just a little too lazy. Like, well, and again, it's like I think a lot of people's relationship with some of that early stuff is different because they were watching it and learning at the same time. So they see it differently. Whereas for me, I go back and I look at something and I didn't grow up with the history and all that stuff. So to me, it's just like, I don't, what's the big deal? Like, I know that it's a big deal because for back then it was a big deal, but it just doesn't hit the same way. So it's hard to appreciate some of them the way that other people appreciated it. Like some of the writing is bad in some of those movies. So like that pulls me out of it. But like again, it was a different experience for them when that was a cutting edge thing, or like there weren't other movies like that at that time. So I don't really think it would work for me to go back. um
Yeah.
but with like techniques or skills or things like that, those are things that I'm always wishing like I knew more of this or that, or had the same learning as some other people. But I think I've done okay with what I got, and I'm still learning. So
Yeah, God, well, the Emmy win, the Oscar nomination. I think. Hey, you have one more Oscar nomination than I do. So from
it's
where I
definitely
sit,
weird. That's a weird one for me. This year has been very strange. What the heck?
oh God, I guess I mentioned Nine Inch Nails briefly earlier, and that they're like my favorite band of all time. I love
Mhm.
Nine Inch Nails so fucking
Yeah.
much, and I think like that's something I heard Trent Reznor talk about when he won the Oscar for The Social Network, and he was like, "How the fuck?" Like,
Yeah.
and did you ever have that moment? Because like what y'all were doing on Different Man was so out there, and so totally different.
Uh, I definitely had that moment. Honestly, it was weird because we were doing another show at the same time we were doing A Different Man. So the set going to set was very disjointed, and like I only got to see bits and pieces of the story. So I had no sense of how good of a movie this would be, or even like little messages throughout the story. Like I just really didn't even know what it was gonna be until I got to see it. So I was like, I don't even know if we're making a good movie, a bad movie. Like I have no sense of what this is gonna be. And it took a while for it to come out. Um, when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be something good. This is like gonna be a little cult classic or something. Um, but considering the the size of the shows that we were up against, I was shocked that we even got the nomination because it's such a small film in comparison to things like The Substance or Nosferatu or things like that. I was just like, they saw this, more than anything. Um, and that's great. I'm so thrilled that that it was even acknowledged in that regard. Um, it was so weird to get a nomination for something that like I was so frenzied running around and doing a million different things. Um, so it was a nice treat. It was definitely is special. But the funny thing is now people are like, oh, like Oscar nominated. I was like, don't. You're gonna raise the bar way too high. Please don't introduce me that way. I'm like, oh God. Now I can never have a bad day at work. Ever. Like everything has to be perfect. Uh,
Well, I've you mentioned earlier the interview that you don't get like starstruck too much or any of these things, and I guess maybe this isn't even necessarily a question about being starstruck, but like when you go to the Oscars or the Emmys, are there any people you single out? Like, I'll tell you, if I ever go to like the Oscars and like Trent Reznor's there, I am immediately making a beeline to him. Is there like anyone that you just like had to say hi to? Have you ever had that?
No. Usually it's more like the people that I did the job with. I just want to like give a high five and like, but yeah, I don't know. I think I'm always just like so focused on the task at hand that like, or if I'm at an event like that, I'm just like, don't be an idiot. Don't be an idiot. Don't trip on your dress. Don't walk like a gorilla. Like, just fit in. Those are the things going through my mind. Uh,
And honestly, I think a lot of the people there probably have the same thing in their mind, right? Like
yeah.
everyone has that same crazy internal monologue. Well,
Yeah.
you mentioned the film history aspect of it and how different people react to different things, because they were learning at that time. And I know like for Mike, for example, the Elephant Man was a huge influence on him, and I think he said at one point that was one of the things that made him want to get into doing movie makeup. When you and him started, collaborating together, were there any movies he sat you down and was like, "All right, Crystal, you have to check this out," or not so much?
Um, Not really. It was more just the like Dick Smith, Rob Bottin, like um Rick Baker, just getting familiar with their work because that came up when I did his master class, which is how I kind of got involved with them. My wife found this class and was just like, "Well, I'm signing you up, so make sure you put in this time for your vacation because it's happening." It's just like because for me, I was like, maybe I could like do really good and they'll remember me and I'll sweep, which is really funny. A 36-year-old person like having like such a juvenile notion. But that was the whole thinking. And I think it was like the first day they were talking about some of the history and like I was, trying to take notes and I totally like gave myself away by being like, how do you spell like Botin? Like had no clue who he was. And they were just like, I was like, "Okay, I'm not gonna ask any dumb questions anymore." So I was like, wanted to look up these people. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's always still things that he's like, "I cannot believe you haven't seen The Godfather," and I'm like, "It just doesn't seem compelling." Like, I don't know.
Well,
But he
it's funny, you mentioned Dick Smith and The Godfather. When like, and I guess it sounds like you didn't go back and watch it, but when you were doing the Marlon Brando makeup for the weekend, you didn't like go back and be like, "All right, I better check this out."
no. I mean, obviously, like I part of my jobs are, like sometimes getting reference photos together or making the photo boards. So I spent a lot of time with images, but yeah, no, bad student, bad student.
No, I love it. I think it's so, you come at it from a totally unique angle. And that's all that's like I think to me that's the thing about art, right? Is like everyone's shitty at something. And I'm not saying I shouldn't use that word. I'm not saying you're bad at it. What I'm saying is like everyone has things that they're 10 out of 10 at and everyone has things that they're like, "Ah, I don't want to mess with that." And like I
Yeah,
think that's what makes people specialize in different ways and, learn different things. And I think that's totally awesome. Um
it makes for some interesting things. Like back in the day when I was in school and I was doing theater, um, I was auditioning for high school advanced theater, and I memorized this monologue. The thing is, because bad student, I didn't know that this was actually a comedy, dark comedy, but comedy nonetheless. So I played it very straight and like dramatically. And they thought I was like genius. But it was just because I have no sense of humor and did not know that it was supposed to be funny. And that actually caused me to play it the way it should have been played to be funny. And I was like, I'm sitting there doing it. I'm like, why are they laughing? I was so confused, but I nailed it. They thought I was genius. I got into advanced theater. It was, but in hindsight, it's like, oh, damn, I can't believe I just didn't even read the whole play. Like, what? Because that's a no no. You're supposed to read the whole play. I would have probably known it was a comedy if I read the whole play. But I'm just like, it's not a lot. Looks good. I'm gonna memorize this one. Ah,
It's fun. I heard I think Groucho Marx said something once to a similar, I can't remember the woman's name, but someone who had been in like a few of the Marx Brothers films just like couldn't understand why they were funny and thought they were always just being like Groucho and his brother were just being idiots and like she and then just made the movie so much funnier.
I saw Office Space by myself once. I was just like, I have to blow time. My friends are in a class. What starts now? Because where I lived, there were like dollar theaters. So I just was like, okay, this starts now. I have no idea what this is. And I went and watched it by myself and with no premise that it's a comedy or anything. And I was just like, these people are weird. Everything's weird. This is a weird movie. And walked out of the movie kind of like, what did I just watch? And then I saw it with friends and I was like, I have something so wrong with me. Like, how the fuck did I not know that this, like, what is wrong with me? Yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, taking us I guess just back a little bit. I know one of the and honestly, I don't listen to a ton of The Weeknd. I'm not a huge R&B person, but one of the really cool things about him is that he's such like a cinephile and he was in
Yeah.
Uncut Gems. The poster of sitting right there. And I think I heard like Benny Safdie telling this story about like The Weeknd going to stay with like Gasper Noah, I can't remember how to pronounce his name, in France for a weekend, just like watching movies. Did when you were doing the make it, did he ever like tell you like, hey Crystal, you gotta check this movie out or anything like that? You get any recommendations from The Weeknd?
Um, I know he talked movies a lot with Mike. Um, but I kind of just like focus on what I'm doing. So I kind of like, turn that down, let the boys talk. I'm focused. Yeah. I I I kind of like when we're in that mode, like kind of just go into like invisible mode. Um, it just kind of depends on what we're doing and those short kind of jobs like that. Like I guess I don't spend as much time trying to engage and I'm just trying to like support as well as I can and keep things moving along so Mike can like be present with the artist because it's really like these are his designs, his rodeo. So I kind of go into a very supportive role. But when we're doing a longer job like Penguin or something like that, there's a little bit more time for us to all become like family and like engage each other a little bit more fully. So it just kind of depends what we're doing. And the jobs that I've done with the weekend were with him were a lot shorter. So, I just kind of get in and get out and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that totally makes sense, and it's one of those things, right? Of like, if you're there to do a job and you got to focus, and you only have this much time, that totally makes sense. Um, and going into a different thing, I guess this is a little bit of an off the wall question. What can you tell me
Mhm.
about Seven the musical?
Oh, the one that I feel like I should write.
Yes, indeed.
How do you know about that?
It's there's not an answer that would be satisfying, but it popped up. Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like it would be a hilarious like kind of like how they've redone like Silence the musical or something where it'd be kind of like comedic um but also like definitely for the diehard fans. Um, I think it would be awesome to just have, like, heavy in makeup, kinda like, can you imagine if the guy in the SpaghettiOs or whatever he's eating were to, like, just get up and start doing a song? Like, "What's in the box? What's in the box?" Like, kind of a moment, like, I just feel like there's so many gems in there that it could be a lot of fun, but
Hey, tell you what, when that comes out, I will be the first person in line. All right, you're gonna sell at least one ticket.
I wonder. Like, why does this not exist? I'm sure it probably does somewhere, but I think
You
it
know,
should.
I did find some like Detroit improv comedy group that did like some sort of version of it, but I think we need the Crystal Jurado spin.
We need the full thing.
I think that's what we're missing here. Well, tell you what, I only got a couple more for you, and then we'll probably get you out of here in good time. Two of the questions I the two questions I try and ask everyone just because I love getting a different baseline of how different artists, think all these things.
Mhm.
This is the setup to the question. This isn't the question itself. Are you familiar with the NASA Voyager Golden Record?
Yes.
If you had been there in the room, is there a song you would have insisted go on the Golden Record?
No. No.
Why is that? Like you're satisfied with the list they had, or you just don't like putting your you
I
know
think I wouldn't have even been like trying to think about that. I don't know. I guess it depends how I don't know. I don't have a good reason. I would have probably been preoccupied with something I'm supposed to be doing and I wouldn't have thought of it. And then it would have went and I was like, oh wait. Huh.
Oh damn it, that's yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's totally fair, and I like I said, everyone has a different reaction to it, and I've never had that reaction before, so I love it. It's great. Yeah, I love it. Uh,
I'm never super enamored about anything. I don't know why that is, but like I guess I'm hard to impress. I'm not impressed, but like I guess everything's just sort of at this like manageable. Like I think to try to deal with like crazy intense jobs and things like that, everything kind of has to stay in this like it's all compressed in this little land where it's like nothing elicits too big of a reaction. So like I don't get wowed very easily, but I also don't get like upset very easily. I just kind of this little zone of comfort.
mm. Is there anything that like snaps you out of that? Like for me, for example, like if I go to like a great concert, then I'm just like totally out of body experience. Like, is there anything that does that for you?
I think the only things that really do that are like the total unexpected.
Mm.
Because I feel like I go into everything I have an expectation or like I'm already in my mind trying to imagine how it's going to be and like manage everything in advance a little bit. And so like if I go somewhere and I see something that's like fun or crazy that like I didn't expect to be there, then I think I'm a little bit more of like get a little bit more of a natural reaction, like a knee jerk reaction. So I'm always down to run into something I don't expect. I
Does that
kind of find I don't try like if I'm gonna go see a show or something, I don't read up a lot about what I'm gonna get because I want to be surprised. You know?
Are there like particular places that comes up like often? Is that like just in day-to-day life talking to people? Is that at the movies? Like what are the environments where the totally unexpected will catch you off guard?
It happens a little bit more like when I travel because we'll try to like me and my wife will try to seek out things that are like more what the locals would like spots the locals like or just weird quirky things that just seem batshit. And we try to find those things like not the touristy things. So um or sometimes like I'll go see a show and I want to see the opener even though I don't know who they are because a few times I've been really impressed by the opener. I'm like, well, now that's the band I want to follow now. Like they're great. And it's usually like local artists or like, local bands. And it's like something that I would have never found unless I bothered to see the opener as well. So that's kind of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, tell you what, I have one final one for you here. The one I've asked every person I've interviewed. What kind of art do you think the world needs more of right now?
Um, Dynamic art. Um, I feel like especially with music, things have gotten very like too chill. Everything's like in this like I'm high. Like there's nothing that really like hits hard or I don't know, it just feels like something's been lost along the way and art doesn't feel in your face very much right now. It all feels a little lazy and tired. And I feel like with maybe it's because there's so much going on that's crazy. People are like, I need to take it down a notch. But I feel like, in fact, we kind of need the opposite right now. Like, we need shit to slap a little bit and we need to wake the fuck up. So, That's the kind of art I want to see. I want it to slap me in the chops.
That's an Italian expression for how's the family.